Now, I know you've been speaking in generalities, but I'm going to get a little specific
Mhm.
in regards to Black people, African Americans, however you want to word it. We typically, I think now they're making, oh, I have a therapist more mainstream
Mhm.
in general. You don't feel so much of a stigma attached to it. But yet and still in our culture, you don't go outside your household to deal with problems, period. That's still what some folks say today. Do you find that you're starting to see that people need help, more people of color versus non-people of color?
Hmm. I would say
And I wasn't trying
with
to stump the panel by any
no,
means.
no,
I
no,
just thought
no,
it's
no.
interesting.
Yeah, I would say you have more younger people willing to accept mental health assistance, whether it's referrals to some type of outpatient facility,
Mhm.
or just being in a therapeutic atmosphere to assist their needs. Now, when it comes to an older generation, and again, not trying to be funny, but if you're, I would say, 50 and over, even 45,
Yep, Gen
yeah,
X for sure.
yeah, I would say it's a lot harder to help that population in some instances because a lot of the times they feel like, okay, my grandmother went through her whole life and didn't need any type of mental health services and she was okay. She prayed her way out. Sometimes certain generations might feel that the church is their therapeutic outlet. Let me go talk to my pastor, which is fine. But unless your pastor is a licensed professional, they're very limited on how they can help your mental health aspect. And it even comes to just medical care, right? A lot of individuals who are older suffer a little bit more. They take a lot more medications for their medical conditions. Some of them are a little bit more hard headed. Things have progressively gotten worse. Even older populations, they're either very dismissive of it because they feel like, hey, I'm 80 something years old, I'm 90 something years old. I did well without having it. I don't need it now.
Right.
Some of them are open to it, but you have to also baby step them with it. In my approach, I always say, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with you.
Oh, it's not you, it's me. Yeah.
Exactly.
Who hasn't heard
So,
that before?
Right?
exactly. So you have to approach it and let them know seeking help doesn't mean that there's a problem with you. There is just resources to help you through your problems.
Right.
And I just feel that sometimes they just don't feel that they need it because they didn't need it before. Why are you telling me I need it now? Or
I
it's an older person who generally wants that. We always can provide the resources, but a lot of times they're more dismissive. You see a lot more younger. And I would say the older, and that goes for Black, white, Hispanic, wherever, like the older generations, they're just not really for it. Right. I feel like that's also another reason why the older generation feels that the younger generation is a little bit more soft
correct.
because they are a lot more expressive in their feelings. And I don't validate
Social
all of it
media. Look what I ate.
exactly. And I'm not saying that they can't be. Sometimes, don't get me wrong, some of the younger generations are a lot more extra with it.
For
I'm a
sure.
millennial, so I'm like in the middle of being introduced and being a little bit more open to it than say like my parents. Sometimes because we also realize that your mental health also affects your physical health, right?
Right.
A lot of us are becoming more aware and open to it because we see more benefits to receiving help. And that's across the board, regardless of race, gender. It's just kind
Right.
of where you fit. It's just kind of like where you fit in your age. And I think a lot of more African Americans do understand the benefits of getting mental health, doing a mental health check. That's why you start seeing a lot more platforms where they're encouraging that, which is a really good thing because I always tell people, yes, I don't see my therapist all the time because there are tools that he's given me to help me utilize through certain situations. But it's also good just to do at least a check in once a year, just like you'll go to the doctor for a physical checkup. It doesn't hurt to
Right.
just get a mental health tune up because
Right.
sometimes we might not know we're going through something until we might just have a brief session and then next thing you know, you're crying. It's, oh, damn, I didn't realize I was going through all that.
Right. Right.
I'll be honest, I don't have statistics on younger versus younger, middle, and older generations or ethnic groups
Right.
that are seeing therapy a lot more. I'm just seeing the awareness a lot more and that they're really
Right.
pushing it, especially in communities of color. They are really doing it. I was surprised when I was working in the ER, there are certain racial or ethnic groups that were coming to the ER for psychiatric evaluations that we don't think of. You don't think of somebody in the Asian community coming in for a 5150 evaluation. You don't think of somebody who is of the Middle Eastern or Indian
Right.
background coming, and we actually have dealt with those in that population. It's just interesting.
And you said you don't have statistics. I get that. I'm just talking from my generation and even my grandparents' generation. To your point, I got this far, I don't need that. In my household, it was more or less what goes on in this house
Mhm.
stays in the house. That's how my part of it was raised. But then I'm glad to see that you're in this health field because there weren't many people of color or even Black people in the mental health realm. Me as a Black woman going to somebody non Black explaining my issues, I might even know where the deep seated issue comes from. How can you at least get the history without me having to give you the history of why I'm feeling what I'm feeling? We all know what it's like to be a person of color when you walk into a room and how you're supposed to conduct yourself. I don't need to explain all of that to you because you know what I'm talking about. So, having somebody going to a therapist that doesn't look like them and then you're expecting me to open up to you, I can tell you right now that's for some people that's not going to happen. If you're looking to get help, you can maybe a session or two and you could tell right off the bat if that's going to work. And not saying if you look like me that it's going to be a one and done either. I'm more apt to open up or want to talk to somebody that can understand from whence I've come. I'm glad that you being a young person and hopefully there's younger people coming in behind you that are doing this because I'm going to get up there one day and the fact that it's oh god I got kids older than you or younger than you, but
Yeah.
I might be more apt, seriously more apt to say something as opposed to someone else coming in. It's just not going
But
to
you
happen.
actually, but you'll be surprised because you're getting a lot more African Americans as social workers and other people of color. You're starting to see a
Hmm.
lot more of that, I would say, within my generation because everybody wants to be an impact, right? They want to impact the communities that they come from. And they
Hmm.
realize the lack of representation in these
Right.
fields, even doctors, right? And I know they said that there's a shortage with doctors and stuff like that, but the hospital that I work at, I was actually really surprised. I'm starting to see a lot more Black doctors in different areas. I start seeing a lot more Latino, and those two in particular because I feel like those two were the ones that aren't really represented the most. But as a Black woman, I've met with certain individuals that felt a little bit more comfortable. Some of them might give me a pass because they feel like I might be younger, but they understand the cultural background that I come from. So
Exactly.
they feel,
Exactly.
I've seen the impacts that's
Yeah.
happened so far. One of the things that my manager had specifically said at the hospital that I work at, he wanted to make sure that he has a lot more representation within our department. It actually has really made an impact because you want your employees to reflect the type of patients that you're seeing.
That's my
Yeah,
point.
it's actually helped out. But sometimes I'll get an individual who is a little bit older. When I get situations where a patient is older and I feel they may not be as receptive to me, I talk to their kids who are probably around my age or their grandkids.
Hmm.
Say, hey, we have a referral for your loved one because they don't want to take their medication. I said, I'm more than willing to talk to your loved one, but I'm 34. This person is 80. I don't think they're going to take it from me. Hey, take your medication. I said, how
Right.
can we work together so we can make sure that your loved one? So,
Right.
when I'm dealing with somebody older that feels, okay, I'm not going to listen to you. I got kids older than you. Yeah, you do. But we're going to work together to make sure we can make something work. I had a patient, she was
You've
Caucasian.
always got a story. You notice that? E,
Of
she's always
course.
got a story. Go ahead.
Okay.
You got
But it was so,
storytellers in your family?
if I told you a lot of stories within my family, yeah. So she was from the Bay Area. So I always tell them, I'm like, yeah, I'm originally from the Bay Area. She was like, oh, yeah, I'm from Richmond. So I was like, oh, okay. She said that she grew up in Hercules or Pinole and
Okay.
stuff. And I was like, and then I made reference. And then she all of a sudden says, oh, my mom worked with a lot of African Americans. I want to be like, I don't give a damn. But she wants to build some type of rapport with
Poor.
me because of what her mom went through. And she was like, I don't see color and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like,
I hate
Oh
that saying.
Lord.
I hate that
Oh,
so,
saying.
but it made her feel
I have
better.
black
Right?
friends. Sorry.
how
Exactly.
many?
Her name is Chelsea. But
Right?
so then we get those type of stories too, because you have some that want to find some type of connection with a social worker
Hmm.
that's not of the same background as them. So it's funny. So I just let it be.
I had one more question pertaining to it because I understand where you're coming from with regards to not having a lot more representation. You see a lot more young people who are more open to sitting on the proverbial couch than the 50 and older generation. My question is, because there's this ongoing thing now about men in mental health, Black men more specifically in mental health. Do you see more Black men more open to being seen and laying on that proverbial couch and talking?
I would just say this, in the spaces that I've been in, you don't see a lot of men. Now, what some men, specifically Black men, have done, they have created like a podcast. They will create certain types of social groups so they can commune with one another. But I don't see them actually seeking mental health, nor do I see a lot of Black males in mental health either. Coming to California, what I see is different than maybe somebody in the Midwest. They might have a lot more representation, and then a
For
lot more males.
Atlanta.
Yeah, a lot of Southern and probably Midwestern, maybe East Coast. You might have more representation and a lot more Black males seeking mental health resources. Where I am, I don't see it, but I'm not saying it's not fair. It just hasn't been something that I have seen. You do see that a lot more males talk about needing to be more open. So a lot of conversations are there, especially on social media, about Black males seeking care. But right now, I just haven't seen a lot of representation on both sides.
Gotcha. You don't see the
Yeah,
representation on the West Coast, right?
I would just say that there might be a little bit more representation. Maybe like in the immediate Bay Area, you might actually have a lot more. But in the area where I am, I personally don't see it. And
Right.
I don't want to always judge social media because I don't know where they're showcasing their stuff. But I would just say this part of Northern California, I don't see a lot of representations like that, either providing the care or receiving the care.
That makes sense. I think Black men are still into the barbershop talk,
Yeah.
still coming together in the barbershop. That's
Right.
like their own little
Yeah,
therapy.
that's
Kinda like
their
women.
meaning. That's their
Right.
meaning.
Salons and the nail shop. But
Yeah.
men really are into the barbershop and airing their stuff in the barbershop.
I remember my grandfather, he had no hair.